one to watch too closely to what influencers do, but I've noticed that some of the fit girls, like the muscle mommies, are now slimming down. They're becoming Pilates princesses. What's up with that? Why are they so skinny? Where'd their muscle go? Hi, I'm Ashara, and I make videos at the intersection of sociology, psychology, technology, and media. And today I want to talk about the disappearance of the muscle mommy. Where'd she go? Now, what exactly is a muscle mommy? Well, if you're new to the gym scene, you might not know, but Gymshark, which is the kingpin when it comes to all things fitness clothing related, said this about muscle mommies. It typically refers to someone who engages in regular strength training, powerlifting, or bodybuilding exercises, resulting in a well-developed physique with visible muscle definition. I think of it more as mommy with an I, like mommy, mamacita.
Mamacita.
And not mommy with a Y. Yeah, as in childbirth and all of that. Think of creators like Lean Beef Patty, who posts a lot of content about fitness and her muscle journey, and she makes being muscular as a woman look super attractive. That's a muscle mommy. The muscle mommy community became pretty popular, I want to say, in like the late 2010s, like 2018, 2019, and the early 2020s. It's important to know what was happening around that time, so let's contextualize so we can see how the muscle mommy truly rose to its prominence. Okay, it's 2017 and there's the Me Too movement booming on Twitter. The hashtag really shone a spotlight on just how many women have been victims and affected by sexual violence and sexual harassment. And in 2017, the Harvey Weinstein case was propelled to the spotlight underneath the hashtag #MeToo on Twitter. Actress Alyssa Milano, alongside many others, shared their stories of sexual misconduct at the hands of Weinstein. And Harvey Weinstein was a huge name in Hollywood. He was a man that had a lot of power, a lot of authority, a lot of influence. So for his name and who he was to be brought down under the Me Too movement, it was a huge win for women everywhere. So why am I bringing this up? Well, I would argue that there was a huge change in the atmosphere. At least I felt it. Women were coming together. This was a huge step for women's empowerment and for taking down these systems that had been used to oppress women for ages, and taking down these big men that hid behind those systems too. Ultimately, it was this big social movement that was empowering women to stand up and not be silent and to take up space. Women's empowerment. And then on the other hand, in pop culture, we were seeing a sort of sexual revolution happening in music and in television. Artists like Megan Thee Stallion and Cardi B professed to the world very proudly that they were sexual beings and they were going to do whatever felt good to them. I mean, does anybody remember the song WAP? Wet. Right. That song is literally about women's genitalia and it was at the top of the billboards for weeks. Yeah. It was seen as a win for women's autonomy and women taking up more space and breaking down barriers that they previously had as far as expressing their sexuality. So to put it all back into perspective, on one hand with the Me Too movement, we had a huge political movement that was all about women's autonomy and taking back their agency. And on the other hand, we had a pop culture movement that was all about women taking back their agency when it comes to sexuality. You put it together and you have a big pushback against the status quo. So it doesn't surprise me that being a muscle mommy became really popular during this time period when women were pushing back against authority. And so while there was all of this women's empowerment going on, a muscle mommy represents physical empowerment, physically taking back your power with how big your muscles are, literally. It makes sense that she was popular during this time. And we saw brands champion this everywhere too. For example, there was Gymshark, which put muscle mommies on the map. The muscle mommy represented an ideal for women who were strong and decisive and confident. It was cool, and it also helped that the muscle mommies typically had a dump truck. This was the time where everybody wanted a fatty, everybody wanted a big booty, okay? And you were gonna go to the gym to build your booty, and you wanted to look like a muscle mommy because the muscle mommies had big booties.
I know that's right.
And I feel like that's a very obvious connection to the muscle mommy big booty and the sexual revolution and idealizing curvy bodies and big booties, hand in hand. And so this era lasted for several years, but now we're starting to see a change. Rather, we've already started to see the change about last year. It first started when a couple of celebrities known for their BBLs and voluptuous figures decided to reduce them. They no longer wanted the drastic curves that were super popular in the late 2010s. And then people started losing weight altogether. It wasn't just about reducing their booties, it was about reducing everything. And then the muscle mommies too started getting skinnier. What's going on? Let's take a look at some examples, shall we?
I'm your Sculpt Pilates instructor today. But 1 year ago, I was the gym rat bodybuilder. So what made me make the full 360 switch? One, compared to where I am now, I felt super masculine. I felt bulky and super buff. Nothing wrong with that. That's my body and my opinion. And I started to see myself lose confidence and feel insecure. I was packing on tons of muscle and fat, so that's why I had this buffier look. Might have felt cool in the gym, but outside of the gym, I felt super masculine.
You weren't kidding about this Pilates body, because tell me why I did 20-minute online Pilates twice this week. I'm so skinny. No, I'm skinny as a rail. I'm so thin. No, you can't even see me behind the coffee. You can't even see me, but yeah, get on it. Sheer length of my limbs is insane. No, it's just Pilates. It's just Pilates.
So we see the women who were proudly calling themselves muscle mommies 5 minutes ago are now deciding that they want to be Pilates princesses, and they're losing weight in the process. And I'll note the reason this topic jumps out at me at all is because these women don't really have much weight to lose. To me, at least, they look healthy. They are healthy. They're tracking their micros and their macros and lifting and the proteins, and they've got muscles. They've literally got muscles, but they want to be small. So it's not really about health. How do we explain this? Well, let's contextualize once again. What is going on in the world right now? We are seeing a return to traditionalism and a rise of conservatism. A return to tradition typically happens when there's economic uncertainty. And a lot of people, much smarter than me, are saying that we are living in those economically uncertain times right now. People don't know what's coming next. They feel out of control and like they're treading uncertain ground. So they return to traditionalism or some traditions that they believe have worked in the past. That's something that will ground them. This comes in the form of being more conservative with bigger purchases, cutting back on spending, but also turning to more traditional or conservative social ideals. And I'm talking about traditional ideas of gender presentation, and gender roles. And yes, that does include body ideals. Dun, dun, dun. We seem to be turning toward an idealized version of the traditional woman, which is feminine and docile and dainty and thin. And we see that this thinness is also conflated with modesty. I mean, after all, a thin body is more modest physically in that it takes up less physical space than a larger body. And we've seen this through the informal economic theory called the hemline index. It establishes a direct correlation between how long typical skirt lengths are and the current state of the economy. The index suggests that when skirts' hemlines are shorter, the economy is booming.
Skirt lengths and stock prices are more connected than you think. Right now, we're dressing more modestly. Think longer skirts, think high necklines. But why? In 1926, an economist named George Taylor came up with what he called the hemline index. The idea was that skirt lengths reflected the state of the economy. In booming times, hemlines would rise, and in downturns, hemlines would drop. We've seen this before. The roaring 20s were all about shorter skirts, flashier style, and economic expansion. But when things slow down, the hemlines start to drop, both literally and figuratively. History always repeats itself, and fashion is no exception. I just wrote my first Substack on this. I dive into how trends reflect the state of the economy. Enjoy.
Now, I don't know about you, but I have seen the hemlines getting a little bit longer. Y'all remember when people were wearing milkmaid dresses at the club? The club. We've seen this in women's clothing stores online and in person with the rise of the popularity of the business chic, business casual, as that being the new casual. Polos, button-ups, slacks as pants now. We've kind of said goodbye a little bit to streetwear and hello to office siren. And we even see more conservative dress with the Pilates princess compared to the muscle mommy. The muscle mommy showed off all her gains and usually wore a sports bra and spandex shorts, while the Pilates princess is a bit more covered up. looking almost ballerina core, a long sleeve, leggings, more dainty, more cutesy, less sexy. The Pilates princess is a more modest and traditionally acceptable version of an athletic woman than the muscle mommy is. Economic uncertainty isn't the only reason why we're seeing muscle mommies become Pilates princesses though. Body ideals change because rich people want to visually set themselves apart as rich. Laurie St. Fleur writes in The Economics of Thinness, thinness is seen as a symbol of refinement and sophistication associated with higher social classes. And this can be exemplified with the Kardashians, who were at the height of the BBL baddie aesthetic. They represented a different kind of money, a different kind of status, and that was previously unattainable. But now that so many women are attaining it, they are going the opposite direction. They're becoming a new version of unattainable, which is skinny. The rich setting themselves apart as rich. But also, old money wise, rich people on average are thinner than the typical person. We could chalk this up to better access to food, having a chef, nutritionist, leisure time, less stress, access to better gyms, etc. The study, A Slim Majority, the Influence of Sex Ratio on Women's Body Dissatisfaction and Weight Loss Motivations, found that thin women are more likely to get married and end up with wealthy, educated men than their heavier counterparts. So there are real advantages to being a slender woman. So I would say that that's probably part of the reason why women are becoming thinner too, because thinner women have access to better. And if the biggest and richest celebrities are trading in their curvy bodies of the past for skinnier versions of themselves, these people who have major influence over body ideals, then it further cements thinness as a rich person activity and as an aspiration to which we all should aspire. It's no wonder that Pilates is so expensive, $45 a class. It's for rich people. It attracts a certain higher paying clientele. And that the aesthetic of that clientele is typically thin. And so Pilates became a skinny girl's activity, a skinny rich girl's activity. So the economy tanking, celebrities going back to being skinny, and skinny affording you certain privileges in life, it makes sense why thin is back to being in. And just like that, the muscle mommy has fallen out of public favor and has been replaced with her daintier feminine counterpart, the Pilates princess, who symbolizes economic success, proximity to richness, and traditional forms of femininity. And I will say Pilates has been gatekept, or at least people have been trying to gatekeep it as a skinny person thing. Like there was that video of this woman who went to her Pilates studio and she said that if you're over 200 pounds, you should not be in a Pilates class.
If you're 200 pounds, you shouldn't be in a Pilates class. There's no reason why they should allow 200-pound people in a level 2 class. You shouldn't be allowed to be a Pilates instructor if you have a gut and you're fat.
Like she's telling big people to not exercise so they won't be big anymore. Clearly she has a problem with bigger bodies, but when the bigger bodies are doing the thing to become smaller, it's an issue too. Because it's specifically Pilates, because Pilates has that specific thin aesthetic. I'm not making it up, people, I promise. So this is what I've noticed. These are my musings. If you agree or disagree, let me know. Please leave a comment because I would love to chat about it. Other than that, please like, subscribe, share. That'd be cool. That's what I hear the cool people are doing. Don't you want to be cool? Thank you so much for watching. Much love always, and I will see you when I see you. Bye.